Joe Biden's getting feisty, fellas.
He's
A
always
little feisty.
Crazy
a little feisty, huh?
Crazy.
Coronavirus madness? Like Matt
Sorry.
Cal? Like, hey, don't
just
please. Mark David Hall came on the show.
Yeah. Here we go.
And we also got a special guest from Samaritan Ministries coming in. Going to talk to us, calm us all down about this coronavirus madness.
they got the answers.
They got the answers, and I think they got the help. Hey, y'all. Thank you for joining us. Good to be with you guys. Pastor Toby, Chuck Knox, I'm the Water Boy. We got a full-packed show for you guys. And thank you to our club members for helping us fight, some madness media. There's a lot of madness going on in the media out there.
Yeah.
We're going to get it. We're going to get it more.
Is that what they call March Madness?
Don't say that to me right now.
At a point, at a point where we need to be saying
so
fake
sad.
news. Like now, no one's saying fake news, and we should be saying fake news.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you really trust these people?
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, this show is brought to you by Samaritan Ministries.
Who I trust.
Healthcare sharing ministry with
Yep.
over 250,000
Amen.
Christians that care for one another's needs, from broken bones to cancer, pregnancies, organ transplants, and coronavirus.
Wow, praise the Lord.
All without the use of traditional insurance. Let's be honest, talking about health insurance is not something anyone really likes to do. It can be confusing. There's all the, the copay and the, the deductibles and, all this
All that jazz.
stuff. And plus, who really knows what's actually going on in all that? That's why Samaritan Ministries is a healthcare option people should consider. It's not insurance. It's Christians sending financial gifts to others when there's a medical need, plus caring for one another spiritually through prayer and encouragement.
What a lovely way to love your neighbor.
Christians can do that with Samaritan Ministries because they know when an illness or injury happens, Samaritan Ministries, the members of the ministry have one another's backs. It's basically bearing one another's burdens. Yeah. So if you'd like to learn more about how you can be part of this ministry, helping each other with health care, visit SamaritanMinistries.org/crosspolitic. SamaritanMinistries.org/crosspolitic, or call 877-459-1662. 877-459-1662.
So Joe Biden the race is now down to Bernie and Biden. And
Redline Bernie and Sleepy Joe.
And Bernie,
dog-faced pony soldier.
I think Joe's either getting feisty because it's down to them two, or maybe it's
Joe's always been feisty,
or maybe
though.
his dementia's kicking in.
No, he's been feisty.
You are actively trying to diminish your Second Amendment right and take away our gun.
You're forced. Now, shush. Shush. I support the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment, just like right now, if you yell fire, that's not free speech. From the very beginning, I have a shotgun, I have a 20 gauge, a 12 gauge, my son's hunt. Guess what? You're not allowed to own any weapons. I'm not taking your gun away at all. You need 100 rounds.
So when you were in Beto and you said you're going to take our guns,
I did not say that. That's not true. I did not say that.
Video.
It's a viral video like the other ones they're putting out there. They're simply a lie.
So to gun owners out there who say, well, a Biden administration means they're going to come for my guns.
Bingo. You're right if you have an assault weapon. The fact of the matter is they should be illegal, period.
Yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47.
You're going to take care of the gun problem with me. You're going to be the one that leads this effort. I'm counting on you.
This guy can change the face of what we're dealing with regard to guns, assault weapons, with regard to dealing with climate change. And I just was warning Amy, if I win, I'm coming for it.
Your voice, you said that you're taking the gun.
Well, he just clarified it. Wait. Take your AR-14s and what?
Okay, this is not okay.
Hold on. Hey, let's
Don't
get
tell me all this, pal.
There's a lot of guys. Want to.
I'm not working.
Thanks so much.
Give me a break.
Thanks so
man.
much.
Hey, there's a lot of
Hey, look, here's the deal. Here's the deal. Are you able to own a machine gun?
I own a machine gun.
I said, are you able to own one? Under law.
Machine guns are illegal.
That's right. So AR-15s are legal.
How is that in a machine gun?
No, it's not.
Semi-automatic.
Yeah, do you need 100 rounds? Do you need 100 rounds?
In America with handguns, and there are what you call assault rifles. Why are you advocating for assault rifles when people are buying a handgun?
Ooh, he was getting it from his people.
You see the guy in the maroon hat?
Yeah.
That's Boss.
Yeah,
Came over.
Yeah, he the only one with the maroon hat. Noticed that.
Yeah, boss came over and he's like, "Hey,
you don't represent us. You
see
need
this
to
decal on here?
That means you shut up right now.
You need to back down."
Yeah. Joe paid a lot of money to come here. You know what? Too, do you need 100 rounds? Yes, because it wasn't. That's not why this whole thing was. It was written so that you could defend against the federal government, not so that you can go hunting. But make that clear all the time.
Yeah. The problem though is that Biden's got a point. I mean, we let them ban machine guns.
We did, and we shouldn't have let them ban machine and bump stocks, which thanks Trump.
Yeah, Trump. What?
We got slow on the job. We let them do it.
You said something yesterday when we were talking about this though about Biden.
Right. You know, everybody's kind of pushing Biden's getting senile. I get that, but I thought this made him look strong. Yeah. And I think more and more that I see him, Democrats have always kind of been the people who are like, smile in your face, they're kind of soft, and then they stab you behind the back. Did I say Hillary Clinton? Yeah, I think I did. But they really look soft in public and like, oh, you know, but then they stab you. And Joe's kind of like, I'm just going to say it, I'm going to be who I am, and he's kind of looking like a tough guy.
Yeah, right.
And they need that right now.
You know, MSNBC and CNN, though, they were actually doctoring this clip and cutting out like the part where there was like real pushback. At least that was the report going around.
Okay.
That was the rumor going around because they were trying to protect him.
Right.
But I think that's an interesting point though to say like, you know, if you actually want to go up against Trump,
you better have you
have to show some more backbone.
That's right.
Because that's part of what I mean. I think people, even those of us that are like, you know, kind of cringing, at various points with Trump, like please don't go to Twitter right now or whatever it is.
Yes.
It's like, but there is a part of you that's like, but thank you for standing up.
Yeah.
To the media. Yeah. Thank you for standing up to liberals and secularism. Thank you. At least somebody's got a backbone.
If the Democrats saw the debate between Hillary Clinton and Trump last time, then they know that you're going to have somebody who can get in there and brawl.
Yeah.
Hillary couldn't brawl. He took Hillary to the mat and he just pounded her.
Dog-faced pony soldier.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier.
Well, here's what's funny is Bernie and Biden are going to be debating on stage. I think it's this Sunday or Tuesday, this coming week.
Yeah.
But it's going to be just themselves.
They didn't cancel that
on
yet?
stage. They didn't cancel.
Oh, there's no audience.
There's no audience.
Oh.
And I think that's actually going to be a very funny debate because Biden's not the best debater. He's just not.
No, but
he's getting worked in all these. But he can
cuss you out.
To that, he doesn't have a crowd because of the coronavirus madness.
Yeah.
So he doesn't even have a crowd to kind of like feed off of or kind of maybe help.
So maybe he won't be nervous
to boo and shout down Bernie when Bernie fights Biden. I don't know.
I am kind of interesting to see what happens. To see what happens.
Get your popcorn. Get ready.
I mean,
but all this madness is coming from the coronavirus.
Right.
Stuff.
Oh yeah.
It's like they've canceled March Madness.
Yeah, we heard
that hurt, man. My wife, she felt so bad for me.
I almost cried for you when I saw it pop up on my
March Madness.
Speaking of which, by the way, just the gauge on your cell phone if you get updates. Okay. And my phone has been going bonkers. And it's almost a form of anxiousness that keeps adding to this is canceled, this is canceled, this is canceled from the coronavirus.
NHL, MLB, NBA, March Madness, concerts are being canceled.
Golf,
conferences.
St. Patrick's Day parade in New York's
canceled. They canceled the St. Patty's Day parade.
So, but
here's the deal. I'm going to take it from you. I'm going to take it right here. Here's the deal. I talked to our Dr. Rod Story.
Yes, who's sponsored the show.
Sponsor of our show.
Story Film Medicine.
We're going to try to get him on the show today. We got Samaritan Ministries coming on to talk about all this, but I was trying to get Dr. Rod on. He couldn't come on. So he's like, I'll call you and we'll talk about it.
Okay.
So he said, this is kind of, we're overreacting to all this. He said, this is a common virus, and it's a particular strand within a common family of that virus.
So coronavirus is actually a family name.
It's a family name.
It's a kind of virus.
Right. And
COVID-19 is a particular strand.
Within that family.
Yeah. Within the family.
And he said this is, the coronavirus, that strand's been around for a long, or the family's been around for a long time, and this strand may or may not be new.
Right.
but he said the test kits, we don't have the test kits to identify the particular strand.
Yeah.
What the test kit can identify is the family, not the 19th strand of it.
All right.
So all these people that are going to get tested, or all these people who have coronavirus, they're going to get tested, and they like, oh yeah, you got the coronavirus, and then they kind of try to determine if they got the particular strand based off the
subjectivity?
Symptoms. So doctors do this all the time.
So COVID-19 is more respiratory than others.
Right. Dry cough.
Right. So that's what they're trying to go after, is they're trying to identify it that way. But that's really interesting. That there isn't actually a test for COVID-19.
Right.
It's a coronavirus family test.
Right.
Which means that you probably had the coronavirus.
That's what I was thinking.
In Georgia.
So we went on the East Coast tour, by the way, which you can watch on the Fight Laugh Feast app if you're a club member.
You're a club member.
Yeah, and if you're club members, oh my goodness, there's so many great things.
Did you get the show Baraka show up there?
I did.
Oh, it's there.
I did.
And
believe it or not, guys, in a lot of those shows, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I'm 98% sure that I had, outside of being tested, I had the coronavirus.
That's crazy.
I'm pretty sure
January.
I had it in January.
Based off the symptoms.
And so we were in Atlanta. We come through the Atlanta airport. We're there at G3.
This is January.
I'm not saying I got it from somebody at G3.
The first case was January 19th.
Don't forget, our homie Juan Jang, who was in South Korea, was at a house with us.
Juan! It was Juan's fault.
So I'm just saying, we was out there, and guess who got it? It was it was me and Neil. So, and we're touching the same things. We're on the cameras, we're on the computer, we're around each other most, we're rooming.
Yeah. But you said, did I hear you right, that Dr. Story said that he thinks that we could have been having coronavirus in the States
for a while. Yeah, it's
but maybe not the same strand though.
Maybe not the same strand, but it goes around.
It's a flu. It's a coronavirus flu. You know. So
right.
So is this something to cancel church over?
Not unless you have, I think, a compelling, immediate danger.
Yeah.
Like I would say. First, you start by just saying elderly folks and those who have respiratory issues, feel free to self-quarantine.
Yeah. Like my mom. My mom.
I mean, if you're in that, the average age of people who are dying from this, is 80.
Yeah.
I don't believe there are any cases of children.
No, there's a few cases in South Korea of a 30-year-old guy, I think.
Yeah. But there's but
respiratory issues are the problem.
Yeah. And so if you're in that sort of high end, range, then sure.
And like all flus.
Stay away.
All flus and I think that higher range.
And I would recommend just some common sense, like, everybody, wash your hands. And,
you should be doing anyway, nasty folks.
Maybe be doing more of the fist bump.
Elbow taps.
That kind of thing. Give yourself a little more space in the rows. But other than that, no, I don't think you should cancel church.
There's just an observation. Me and my wife, we have 8 people in our house. Working on 9 right now.
Yeah.
And so when we go buy toilet paper, we kind of have to buy a lot of it because there's a lot of bums in our house.
Yeah.
And so we go get our natural, normal levels of toilet paper. And my wife is like, people are saying, I don't understand. Why are you getting so much toilet paper? It's just it's a cold thing. Yeah. She's like, no, this ain't for the virus. This is normal for us.
We are preppers.
We're not prepped. Right. If we did that, we'd get a huge U-Haul, And so we were, that's what we get. Yeah. But when we went to the store just to get basic house supplies, because here's the deal. If everybody just acted normal, there would be no shortage of anything. Yeah. If everybody just acted normal, we'd be fine.
Yeah. Right,
and so
and that's the thing though is we still have we're in a situation where the regular flu kills between 12,000 and 20,000 people every year.
Yeah.
And we only have identified at least to today probably upwards to about 2,000 cases.
Right.
Not deaths,
right.
Just 2,000 cases.
Isn't it like
And we've canceled March Madness.
Right.
Over
this.
Identifying 2,000 cases.
And we're doing, guys,
flu.
That's madness.
We're getting this. So all the soap was gone from the Walmart. Yeah. All the toilet paper was emptied out. All the hand sanitizer. And so I said, babe, let's just take a stroll over to the health side of things and see what's going on the other side. All the vitamin C was still there. All the vitamin E was still there. All the immune boosters were still there.
That's hilarious.
And everybody is worrying about cleaning this outside thing. And nobody's thinking about, well, what happens if I actually catch it? Can my body fight it off?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was like, I think the elderberry was still there, and it was like, guys, what are you,
right?
Just if it's a flu,
it's a pretty good metaphor,
right,
for our land, isn't it?
Yes,
wash that outside of that cup.
Yes, that's right.
But we got dead. Here's a couple of things I saw yesterday. Congress was trying to pass the bill for emergency help for coronavirus.
Yeah, and
the Democrats, I think I can't remember if it was 1 million or a billion, but I know that's a big number difference, but a big chunk of that change was to go to abortion funding.
What?
It was Nancy Pelosi was sticking that in there.
It was, and they were trying to get a bunch. And the way it works is they were eliminating Hyde Amendment restrictions. What the Hyde Amendment says is that no money coming from federal funds can go to help support abortion.
See, that's what scares me.
And so a bunch of people are, and then what happened on the news was they were reacting and said, why are the Republicans making a big deal about this? You're making this political. Yeah. And the Republicans were saying, no, we're not making this political. You're making it political by removing a hide restriction, saying this. Why are you removing that restriction? So remember, the same people that are running, I'm not saying nobody's in danger. I know that there are some people that should take precautions. We already talked about that. But I'm saying the same people that are running this hype, this panic, are people who think that it's okay to murder babies.
Yeah.
Like they can't see clearly. And so is there any chance that all of this is a pretty highly calculated play to screw Trump? Absolutely.
Yeah, and to screw you.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, because what happens is you have the economic repercussions for all this are gigantic. I mean, we're talking billions of dollars.
$11 trillion has been lost in the stock market already. 11 trillion.
And what happens is, so people are not going to work.
That's
and
right.
so they're not doing the work that they're called by God to do. They're
Talk
not
about loving your neighbor.
producing the products they're supposed to, exactly. Doing the good works that God's called you to do.
Well, and look at how fast Republicans are becoming socialists and all
Well,
this.
that's another thing too.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
When fear comes in, you can't see straight either. When you get to the place where fear freezes you, and whatever somebody tells you to do, you say, that's what I need to do, and you don't think clearly.
Right.
And so we just need to stop for a second. Don't be afraid. Go back on your knees. Right. Repent. Right.
Remember, the same media people that are running this play are the same people who, again, you said fake news earlier.
Yeah.
You can't trust them for anything.
That's right.
And meanwhile, Pornhub,
I saw this,
is providing free porn to everybody in Italy.
Premium porn.
While they're in their quarantine. Hey, at least you can commit adultery and fornication. Wow. But this is the thing.
Wow.
We have to recognize that on the one hand, panic is stupid. Panic is completely pagan.
That's right.
And on the other hand, we have to recognize that this is coming from the Lord.
That's right.
And if you're not waking up and saying the reason why people panic is because they don't know Jesus. Yeah. And if you're a Christian and you're part of the panic, you're part of the problem.
That's right.
And so we need to get on our knees. We need to confess our sins. This should be a moment of come to Jesus and get clean.
Yep.
Get clean in your hearts.
That's right.
Amen.
That's right.
Come on,
preach,
wash
Pastor.
your hands, but you got to confess your sins, and you need to get right with Jesus. You need to have a clean heart so you can love your wife, you can love your kids. That's what's needed in this moment.
There should be a fear there, but the fear needs to be towards God.
Yeah.
That's where the fear needs to be.
Exactly.
Not towards man or the disease.
Exactly.
Yeah. More cross politic when we come back. I still wouldn't mind having a little bit of sanitizer
But there's some really neat opportunities here.
And
too.
that's right.
That's what we want to talk about next segment.
With Samaritan Ministries, which you should be checking them out right now.
Yeah.
Americans have been traveling down the health insurance highway for decades. But lately, it's been taking us to places we don't want to go. For Christians, it's hard to know which road to take. Or is it? Samaritan Ministries provides a different direction, a biblical path for their members to pray for each other and share financially in each other's medical needs.
This idea that Samaritan has adopted from the book of Acts should permeate all parts of our lives, not just health sharing. We, as a body of believers, are living out New Testament Christianity. This is what God intended for the church.
Do you believe that you need an insurance company, or do you believe that God will provide your needs? And there are people that you've never met before who are going to pray for you and meet your needs. There's another way.
Looking for a new direction for your health care? Visit us online at SamaritanMinistries.org.
Don't be looking over here. I don't need you in my...
Welcome back.
This is all good. Okay.
Welcome back to Cross Politic on the Fight Laugh Feast Network. This segment is brought to you by Logos Online. Logos Online School provides a Christ-centered classical education for grades 7 through 12 that is both affordable and accredited. Their mission is to support parents as they raise their children in the nurture and admonition of Jesus.
Amen.
Classes meet online daily, Monday through Thursday.
Perfect for the coronavirus.
What?
Right? Perfect for the coronavirus.
Well, this is
online.
You're just taking online school.
You're hilarious.
Well, I was going to say, I've seen a lot of people now start to pull their kids out of government schools because of the coronavirus. They're spraying down with Lysol, but if they were on Logos Online, they wouldn't have to do that.
Exactly.
So,
outstanding teachers who take a personal interest in your student, and unlike other programs, there are no extra fees for diploma students and honors classes. Registration is open now for fall classes. LogosOnlineSchool.com. Christian, classical, accredited, and affordable. Go to LogosOnlineSchool.com. We are grateful to have with us on the line right now Mr. Joel Noble. He's Director of Public Policy at Samaritan Ministries International, where he has served since 2001. He directs the ministry's legislative program advocating for federal and state governmental bodies.
Oh, good.
Advocating with federal and state governmental bodies.
Joel, can you get March Madness back up?
Yes.
Come on now. Come on now.
Yeah. He's working on that. Joel earned his bachelor's degree in history education from Illinois State University with an emphasis on political science, geography, and sociology. Completed a master's of arts and leadership studies from the seminary at Lincoln Christian University, where his final research paper focused on what the Bible teaches on the proper jurisdictions of family, church, and civil government.
Period. Period. How about that?
He's been married to his wife, Sarah, for 20 years, and they have 4 boys.
Hey, are those boys baptized, Joel?
Yeah, well, my 5-year-old, not yet. And I'm sorry.
It's all right. We'll pray for you. We'll pray for you.
We'll pray for him.
You know, there's a virus going around. It might be a good time. Dunk them in some water.
Yeah.
Yeah. Joel, thanks so much for joining us. And, we Samaritan Ministries is one of our sponsors. We're so grateful for Samaritan Ministries.
Amen.
Gabe's actually sporting Samaritan Ministries.
He's rocking it right now.
Swag right now.
That Amanda
really? On his T-shirt. Yeah. So, anyways, so we got this Corona thing.
The Rona.
Going around.
Yep. Is it a beer?
And so I'm guessing you guys are starting to get some questions there at Samaritan Ministries. How's Samaritan Ministries thinking about this and talking about it? What's your guys' angle on this?
So it's a pleasure to be here. So we are really just, trying to let the members know a couple different things. First, anything related to it, testing, treatment, we would treat like any other need under our guidelines. And that would be something that we would share. So you want to put that out there, first to the members.
Yep.
And then post that, we have been, working even more so in the last couple of days. We've always had a disaster preparedness, plan. What happens if a tornado hits? We're in Illinois, stuff like that.
Yep.
But we have, already started to prepare. What does it look like to have to work remotely? I mean, what if, for those that, are using a public school, what if, the school shuts down and they have to, stay home and, work remotely because, their kids are, home now. Things like that, just making sure that, because one of our, our top priorities is to make sure that needs are still being shared. Regardless of what's going out, outside of our doors. And so, we've, joined in and making sure we have enough laptops and, jumping on that before they, all get sold off. And
really?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. Cause I think laptops are at a premium right now. My understanding is it took us a couple tries just to get an order in. The first couple were out of stock before. And so we've added, I think, we had some other loaners out there, but last I heard, I think we, put together about 81 more laptops that could be distributed to a remote workforce if needed. And so, yeah, all of it's we've compared it to basically having a sprinkler system. I mean, you have it there in case of the fire. You don't want the fire. Right. You're hoping it's not going to be a fire, but if it is, so we've been working on that, and we're actually going to probably have a notice out to all our members by the end of the day, just kind of explaining the precautions we've taken. And then beyond that, just, talking to them practically about, just do what's best in terms of, if you're feeling ill or sick, maybe this is a point where you need some social distancing, wash your hands, things that, it's funny that we probably should have been doing before the coronavirus.
Imagine that.
Yeah. That's kind of been the joke of like, who's not washing their hands?
Right.
But, so, just reminding, things like that and, just being safe and, but you just reassuring the members. And at the same time, just, taking the spiritual aspect of it also, we've not been given a spirit of fear. I mean, that's been the, kind of the downside to all of this is just the amount of fear. And, it's just been, that's been unfortunate that, the level of fear that's out in the world right now, and just as the body of Christ not contributing to that. I mean, I
just think what's helpful in all this is being reminded of that. Perfect love casts out fear, and it seems like the government and MLB, all these leaders that are making these decisions, I feel like they're virtue signaling. It seems like they are. And so I appreciate, like, Samaritan Ministries, you guys aren't trying to put out this big virtue signal like you're going to save everybody in the world on this, but it's because it's coming from like a love for community in what you guys do. How do you guys how are you guys thinking about this in relationship to kind of the political madness that's going on around all this?
Yeah, so just staying on top of even though we're not insurance, just making it clear to government officials when necessary that we have seen things like this before.
Mm-hmm.
I was just sharing that I've been here 19 years, and it didn't dawn on me that the swine flu was just 11 years ago.
Right.
And so I was here, we were operating, and I happened to go back and look, and we didn't see any really uptake at all, even in needs, and it certainly didn't wipe us out, that. Yeah. But at the same time, taking it serious, that people are generally sick, they have needs. We still want to be able to share that, but just letting officials know, because their immediate reaction is, okay, everything, you got to have free testing, you got to have all this, and just to tell them, like, this is not new to us in one sense. It's a new virus, but dealing with needs is not new to us. And so right. we're prepared to help our members share with each other.
One of the things
letting them know. Yeah.
One of the things I love about love is maybe strong, but I'm thankful for this moment. Because when people fear and panic, what it is doing though is it's actually showing the powerlessness of their gods.
Yeah, that's right.
And so, in this, what we've done is we've made the state our god.
Yep. Yeah. They got to come save us.
And so everybody's saying, "What are you going to do to fix this?
That's
what are you going to do to fix this?" Because we don't understand that it's not their job to fix this. There's certain kinds of protections that they could, that's within their jurisdiction.
Yeah.
But there's actually an enormous opportunity then for Christians who don't bow to the state god, who actually serve Jesus, to begin serving their neighbors, which is one of the things that I think is what's happening with Samaritan. Samaritan isn't all intertwined in this big government mess, such that, if government has to fix it all, then you got to stand in lines, you got to get your paperwork done, you got to get all your stuff. But if you're not entangled in that, then you just send your request in, and the private sector you ain't got strings on me,
right?
And so it allows. Have you seen that? Is there greater freedom when Christians obey Christ and serve one another than when they run it through the government?
Yeah, absolutely. And even I on other interviews where people just ask practically how Samaritan works and how need sharing works. I shared a story about my 11-year-old. They broke a light bulb earlier in the day and didn't tell us, and he went to bed and cut his leg on a piece of glass that he didn't tell us about. So that resulted in a trip it had to be in the emergency room because it was 10 o'clock at night at that point. Yeah. And so I'm literally driving up Main Street, and I have a choice. I can turn left to go to one hospital. I can turn right to go to another. And in that moment, I had a choice of, okay, I know where on a Saturday night, I know where, basically the drunk tank is. I know where they're taking the overdose. I know, which one of those.
Mm-hmm.
And I know what the other emergency room also has a pediatric emergency room. They have two separate entrances, one for kids and one for adults. Mm. And I had a choice. I'm like, okay, I know where I'm going tonight, to get this leg stitched up. Yeah. And so that kind of freedom of not being bound by even a network. Even the practical sense of not being controlled. I love Samaritan as an employer, but they're not the ones dictating where I get my medical service.
Right.
And because I have that freedom. And so that's one of the big downsides to insurance, is that ultimately the person using it's not in control.
That's
and right. So their employer's dictating it, or, whoever's paying that.
Right.
And so, we've seen that. And in a practical sense, at Samaritan, we've, started a couple different kind of side programs. One was called the Morning Center, which was free maternity care, prenatal, postnatal. Yep. And so to take that away from, because, Medicaid and the government was one of the biggest payers for pregnancies.
Right.
And to take it away and say, this most vulnerable part of your life, the church is going to step up to the, community that can't afford this. And, when they can't afford it, they think, okay, the best choice is to just, do away with this child, and to say no.
Yeah.
Like, the church will take this, and we'll, we set up mobile, vans and units, and now in a couple cities, and to say, we're going to take care of this completely free, and, this most, important part of your life, and to take care of you as a church.
Wow. Talk about the pro-life side of the other side of the pro-life movement. That's beautiful.
Right.
Yeah. I didn't know about that.
Yeah. I didn't know about that either. Go ahead.
I'm thinking about one of the things in all this is, even now take that, and I want to encourage our listeners and our audience just to be thinking more broadly. Even that, it's like so Joel and the folks at Samaritan have particularly taken a lead in healthcare, and even on the pro-life stuff and so forth. But there's a massive opening here for Christians. If you see that the government can't save, if you see that bureaucracy and centralization is just a dead end and a black hole, this is a prime moment for you to step up and say, what gifts has God given you? And how can you serve the needs of people around you? Need is the mother of invention, right?
Yep, that's right.
Necessity is the mother of invention. And if you're a Christian and my life is hidden with God in Christ, I'm not afraid of dying. And then you see, there's a massive need.
Yeah.
What can you do? In Titus, it says, let our people learn to maintain good works, meet urgent needs, that they may not be unfruitful.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking things like, is there an app that you need to invent right now?
Right.
That would help your community meet needs. Do elderly folk need groceries delivered to their homes? And is there an app that you need to write for that? Is there a social media thing that you need to do for that? Is there some other business or company or operation? I mean,
how about loans? AP Gianni, who was the banker of America, Bank of America now. Okay. Remember, there was a 1906, I think it was. I just got this from the Italian documentary with them migrating here from Italy.
Yeah.
And basically the huge earthquake started a huge fire out in San Francisco, I believe it was, and burnt down everything.
Yeah.
He went to his bank, got all the money out of his bank, put it inside of a little carriage, and went to the barge right on the bay there, and gave loans out to the minorities that couldn't get loans from the government or any other bank off of a handshake.
Yeah.
No way.
And he said he based it off
of how Bank of America started?
That's how it exploded. So he was already doing his bank. He would only give loans to those minorities, and he would shake their hands and say the calluses on their hands would tell them if they were going to be able to pay the loan back.
Right.
And he did. So I was thinking about that in light of the federal government taking all these trillions of dollars and throwing into business. Like, where's the private sector at?
Yeah.
There's opportunities there for us to do that too.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm saying is I think there's a huge opportunity if Christians will look at this in faith and say, how can we lead?
Yeah.
And get out in front of this and say, there's a need. I can meet that. I'm not afraid. I believe in God's blessing. And take reasonable precautions and so forth. But that's what Samaritan Ministries has done.
That's right.
In healthcare sharing industry. But there's all kinds of other ways in which needs could be met now, especially with people probably getting laid off from their jobs.
That's right.
All kinds of needs with elderly, healthcare. I mean, are there ways that hospitals can communicate more clearly, or doctors can communicate with their patients better? And there are ways to alleviate panic.
That's right.
And so forth.
I got a question for Joel on that.
Yeah.
Joel, do you guys work with like a particular doctor to kind of when something like this happens to communicate to the members on how to just be thinking, to calm people, to get them to think normal about these things?
We honestly, we haven't with providers. I mean, there's providers that we know that are friendly towards cash pay, and we know. I mean, when we can, I mean, we have a lot of resources for our members in terms of like the Christian Medical Association, dental.
Yeah.
And so when we, providers that we know well and we've worked with, and even providers that, are in a small practice that happen to be members.
Yeah.
We try to get that out to members and, let them know, about folks in their area. And especially like DPCs is, big now with the direct primary care,
right.
and making that easier for our members so that they can have, a good, a more personal relationship with their physician.
Right.
But no, we haven't actually like talked to providers about, okay, can you, share with them and help them through, the times where there's hysterica, around things.
That's another example, though. The direct primary care thing is another way in which doctors have already been saying, "I'm going to get out of the system, and I'm just going to do direct primary care." We got Dr. Rod Story here in town doing that, and lots of others have done it. But that's just another way in which Christians, faced with a problem, Christians get creative.
That's right,
and get creative to solve the problem.
That's good.
And when you're doing it, thinking biblically with a biblical worldview, it's the better way.
That's actually free market economics too.
Exactly.
How can I provide for my neighbor right now something of value?
And when you don't have
that's loving your neighbor.
And when you don't have the long lines and all the bureaucracy to worry about, and they can get care quickly and smoothly and so forth.
That's right.
Man, that wins in the free market really fast.
Joe, the last word is yours, sir. Go ahead.
I appreciate what you all are doing, and it's. I think we're right there with you in terms of getting the jurisdiction back to the church, and allowing the church to act, because at the end of the day, when people are served, it's who's being glorified, and if the church is doing it, they can point people to Christ and say,
Amen.
We did this, out of love for Christ, and the ultimate glory goes to Him. And instead of, them looking to say, glory to the government, glory to, elected officials, and, they're great people, and a lot of them, but at the end of the day, it's God that provides all this. It's the God that, put that king on the throne anyhow. And so it should be his glory anyhow.
Amen.
But that's what we want to do. We had a saying around here that we don't care who gets the credit as long as it's Jesus. And so that's how we operate.
Amen.
Wow.
So that's, last word.
Joe, appreciate you coming on the show and appreciate what you guys doing.
That's good stuff.
SamaritanMinistries.org. They support CrossPolitic.
/CrossPolitic.
Yeah, that's right. Because we want you to tell them that we sent you there.
Yeah, that's right.
More CrossPolitic coming up next.
We got David Hall. Mark David Hall.
Logos Online School is your affordable partner in classical Christian homeschooling, offering live teacher-led instruction 4 days a week to students in grades 7 through 12. Our experienced, enthusiastic teachers provide instruction in math, science, literature, history, languages, Bible, apologetics, rhetoric, government, and economics. Find out why more and more Christian homeschoolers are turning to Logos Online School for the education of their children. Go to logosonlineschool.com today.
I'm awake. I'm awake.
Better be.
Welcome back to CrossPolitic on the one and only Fight Laugh Feast
Corona
Network.
Free Show.
What's that?
Corona Free Show.
Corona Free?
And a lot of people are home watching us live right now because
in their quarantine.
Yeah.
Hey, this segment is brought to you by Story Family Medicine. Is this an accident? Are you sure you want to?
No, this is for real.
Today, our sponsor is Story Family Medicine, a medical clinic here in Moscow, Idaho. You might recognize Dr. Story from past episodes of CrossPolitic. Did you put that in there?
Are you missing something in the monitors?
Where he talked about the current transgendering crisis.
Yes.
Go back and check out that show. That was
a good show.
Crazy.
It was.
He resigned his position at a hospital over them wanting to do transgender surgeries.
Yep.
In 2018, Dr. Story opened up his own direct primary care clinic. DPC is a membership model, that's direct primary care, where members pay a single monthly fee for continuous and personal care.
It's kind of like joining the CrossPolitic Club. But, our club doesn't really help you medically.
Continuous personal care.
Depends on where you put mental at.
You can find more information at storyfamily.com. StoryFamilyMed. That's StoryFamilyMed.com.
Sanitize that.
Or by calling their office at 208-310-7773. That's StoryFamilyMed.com or 208-310-7773.
Can I just tell you, I love the fact that he prays with his clients.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's so impressive.
Yeah, he finishes up and says, how can I pray for you today?
I'll tell more about this on the show later, but I talked to him on the phone this morning, and before he got off, he's like, can I pray with you?
Yes.
You were asking him about stuff for the
coronavirus.
show. Like, but let me pray for you.
Let me pray for you.
We are very thankful to have with us right now on the line Dr. Mark David Hall. He's the Herbert Hoover Distinguished Professor of Politics and Faculty Fellow in the William Penn Honors Program at George Fox University. He's an associated faculty at the Center for the Study of Law and Religion at Emory University and a senior fellow at Baylor University's Institute for Studies of Religion. He's written and edited or co-edited a dozen books on religion and politics in America and is nationally recognized expert on religious freedom. He writes for the online publications Law and Liberty, Intercollegiate Studies Review, and has appeared regularly on a number of radio shows,
including
Truth in Action, Today's Issues, The Janet Medford Show, and Cross Politic.
Wow.
He's also the author of the brand new book, Did America Have a Christian Founding? Mark, thank you.
Should be a short book.
Thank you for joining us on Cross Politic.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
We really appreciate you coming on. So,
this is no coincidence.
What is that?
Mark is here.
Especially after,
We just talked to Andrew on Wednesday.
Andrew Seidel came on our show, and this is one of those things where God pieced all these things together, but Andrew Seidel had actually retweeted or copied a tweet that I put out about women and elders and stuff. He was just going off about how wicked
it's amazing how moral he is.
Fundamentalist Christian nationalism is.
Yeah.
And then I look up and I see he's got a book, and then we get him on, and then it turns out he just debated you, Mark.
That's right, down at the University of Louisville. And you can still find that debate if you just Google both of our names. It was filmed by C-SPAN, and it's up on the worldwide internet somewhere.
So what are your thoughts on the work of Andrew Seidel?
You know, he is a decent guy in person, but his book, is just absolutely horrible. I think it's titled something like "Was America Founded?" As the Founding Myth.
The Founding Myth.
And he addresses the role of religion in the American founding, and basically he argues, as do far too many people, including scholars, that America's founders were Enlightenment rationalists who created a godless constitution, and they desired the strict separation of church and state. And all of these claims are just absolutely and fundamentally flawed.
Yeah, and this is why you wrote your book.
Exactly right. And my book and Andrew's came out about the same time, but there are plenty of other scholars who have written about these things, secular scholars, but Christian scholars as well, people who teach at Messiah College and other places, as well as popular authors. So these arguments are out there. They're all over the place. And they're just simply wrong.
So when we were talking to him on Wednesday, he says, it's a godless document. The Constitution is a godless document. Yeah. And I said, no, it's not. God's in the document. He says, all right, here we go. Let's say it together. One, two, three.
Year of our Lord.
Year of our Lord. And he goes on this, this tangent about how, a scribe sort of slipped it in surreptitiously, but the founders, weren't intending that at all. So what's your answer to his mockery of just the fact that the Constitution is dated, the founding of our country, in line with the birth of Jesus?
I would say it's a very trivial point, and I address this in my book, but I don't really place any weight on it. Because let's say that the deity was referenced 3 or 4 times, like the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah.
When someone like Andrew Seidel looks at the Declaration of Independence, he'll still say that's a secular document too.
Right.
And God is referenced just simply as a matter of rhetoric. So I just want to get beyond counting references to God and talk about the intellectual influences on America's founders. And I'll mention just one that you guys will appreciate right away. The founders were convinced that humans are sinful, that all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, that even Christians continue to struggle with the old man within.
Yeah.
And so they designed a constitutional order characterized by separation of powers, checks and balances, federalism, and that sort of thing. Enlightenment thought at the time was going exactly the opposite direction. The basic premise of Enlightenment thought is that humans are perfectible. Humans are basically good. If we just get the educational system right, we can produce good humans, and government should be by the experts, right? By the educated experts. And they should, in fact, have a great deal of power, a great deal of centralized power, so they can pass good laws for the many uneducated people. America's founders saw that that would be a recipe for disaster, a recipe for tyranny, and so we went in exactly the opposite direction. That is just one of the ways in which America's founders were influenced by Christian ideas. I delineate 3 or 4 major ideas like this in arguing that America, in fact, has a godly constitution, not a godless constitution.
I always find it funny when atheists find the 2 doctrines I think the atheists find most abhorrent is original sin. They hate that doctrine.
Yeah.
Because how could, why am I responsible for Adam's sin, kind of thing. And then the other doctrine is the substitutionary atonement.
Yeah.
They hate the fact that Christ could substitute himself for our responsibility or for our mistake or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's talking about this history book. He's trying to write some sort of history analysis or whatever, but it keeps coming up with him.
Right. He hates it.
It comes up. Why does those doctrines influence an atheist on how he sees history so poorly?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. His book is full of these very bad arguments, right? So, for instance, he'll say Christians embrace this doctrine of the atonement, but the 8th Amendment prohibits cruel and unusual punishment, and therefore the founders rejected the Bible.
Yeah, that's
one
right.
of my favorite arguments is this. The first commandment says you shall have no God before other than the Lord your God. The First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution says we'll have religious freedom.
Right.
Therefore, the founders rejected the First Commandment. I mean, it's just an insane argument. It's a basic, classic category mistake, and his book is full of those sort of silly arguments, honestly.
I'm sorry, we're going to go?
Go ahead.
All right, I was just going to say, one other place that the atheists like to go, which I think sometimes catches Christians off guard, who are wanting to argue that, no, our founders were building a country off of Christian principles and so forth, is the treaty with Tripoli.
Yeah.
So can you just explain what that was for our audience, and then explain why it shouldn't be a problem for Christians who understand history this way?
Sure. I discuss it in the book, as you might expect. Basically, there's about 5 documents that people like Andrew Seidel can really latch on to that seem to support the argument that America was founded as a secular, godless country. The Treaty of Tripoli is one of these. Basically, the Treaty of Tripoli is a treaty between the United States and the pirates in North Africa. And
Muslim pirates.
There's Muslim pirates, exactly. Places like Libya today. And it basically says America was in no way founded as a Christian nation. So that would seem to support Andrew Seidel's thesis.
Right.
However, the context, of course, what you had is basically American ships were protected by the British Navy until the War for American Independence. After that, during and after that war, the British Navy, understandably, is no longer protecting American shipping. And so American ships are being captured by these pirates, and Americans are being forced into slavery, were being ransomed, and this sort of thing. And so this is just a very practical, pragmatic arrangement to make peace with these pirates. And it was a pretty shameful peace, actually. We paid basically ransom to them and this sort of thing in order for them to stop picking on us.
Right.
So this was, in fact, a line in the treaty. This treaty was publicly known, and it was unanimously approved by the U.S. Senate. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things I argue is, first of all, you understand the context. You can kind of see how this comes about. Second of all, if anyone thought this was a principled statement of church-state relations, there would have been a lot of controversy about it, but no one understood it to be that. And then this treaty was renegotiated and reapproved a dozen times after the initial treaty, and this line was removed and it never came back again. Huh. Basically, these pirates remained a problem until Thomas Jefferson sent the Marines in to wipe them out, right? From the shores of Tripoli. It's a reference to this wonderful manly response to the pirates instead of this kowtowing to them.
Yeah.
So it's a shameful part of American history, I think, but in no way, shape, or form should be taken as a principled statement of the relationship between Christianity and the American founding.
You know, in the last 15, 20 years, we've seen kind of a new wave of atheism kind of rise up in America. And when we first saw it, evangelists kind of jumped on it. But I remember Ray Comforter on the streets and the open air preaching, and just kind of this rise of new atheism, this kind of combative atheism started hitting us. But then they started attacking kind of foundational truths like American founding history. What has happened probably in the last 15 and 20 years to kind of open up this new wave to hit that even the foundations that would have, like my mom and her mom would have been like, that's a stupid question. Of course America was a Christian nation. My grandmother wasn't a Christian.
Yeah.
But,
but she knew better.
It was just a given. What's happened probably in the last 15, 20 years to kind of make this question even pop up that you have to write a book like this?
That's a wonderful question. I think this line of argumentation goes back to the 19th century. It really takes off in the mid-20th century, especially with respect to church-state relations with Everson versus the Board of Education, a 1947 case, where the justices said basically we have to interpret the Establishment Clause in light of the founders' views. Thomas Jefferson and James Madison equal America's founders. Jefferson and Madison wanted to build a wall of separation between church and state. Therefore, the First Amendment requires a wall of separation between church and state. And so Supreme Court justices and college professors and others have been making these arguments since the mid-20th century. I think it's taken some time for these arguments to filter down into the general reading public, for want of a better phrase. In terms of the angry atheist, I'm not sure exactly what sparked them. Maybe the fact that America, I think, is becoming less and less of an active Christian country. Maybe they see an opening. Maybe they're pushing their advantage and this sort of thing. And this might help explain why these arguments have taken on a lot more publicity, because you're exactly right. The number of Americans who claim to be atheists is still not high, but the number of Americans who say I have no religious affiliation is at an all-time high by far and away. Yeah. And the number of Americans who say I'm an active practicing Christian is pretty much heading towards an all-time low.
Yeah. One of the things you do, it's really helpful in your book, is you point out that the Supreme Court and a number of other activists have highly favored Jefferson and Madison. And you point out this is actually just kind of ridiculous. Why?
Oh, it's totally ridiculous. Well, first of all, if we're looking to the founders to understand what the First Amendment was intended to do, we need to understand that Jefferson played no role, literally no role, in drafting the First Amendment or ratifying the First Amendment. Madison was involved with it, but Madison, of course, is simply a member of the House of Representatives.
Right.
He had to negotiate with his fellow representatives. They had to negotiate with the Senate. And so the First Amendment is a product of a community.
Right.
Now, one of the chapters of my book, I argue that even Jefferson and Madison were not the sort of separationists that people like Andrew Seidel from the Freedom from Religion Foundation wishes they were.
Right.
They simply weren't. But once we turn from them to the rest of the founding generation, we see no desire to build a wall of separation between church and state. Let me just give you one story. It's one of my favorite stories.
Yeah.
Literally one day after the House of Representatives approved the wording of what became the First Amendment, Elias Boudinot said to his fellow representatives, hey guys, things are going well. Let's ask President Washington to issue a Thanksgiving Day proclamation. Ananias Burke said, no, we can't do that. That's a European practice. Roger Sherman, the old Puritan from Connecticut, said, no, it's okay, guys. It's a biblical practice. Yeah. We certainly can do this. The House agreed with Boudinot and Sherman. The Senate agreed with the House. And President George Washington, who did not have to do it, issued a wonderful, robust Thanksgiving Day proclamation. Your listeners can find it easy as pie. Just Google George Washington Thanksgiving Day Proclamation, 1789, and bam, there it is. And I think this, and I tell a number of stories like this, in no way, shape, or form did the American founders desire to build a wall of separation between church and state. What they wanted to do in the Establishment Clause is simply say we are not going to have a national church. And thank goodness they did. National churches always end up being bad for Christianity. And I think they saw that. And so therefore they said, we're not going to have one of those for profoundly Christian reasons. Yeah. But in no way, shape, or form, they want to build a wall of separation between church and state.
So, excuse me, the First Amendment, says Congress shall make no law, which is obviously restricting the Congress, or used to. But now the Congress makes all sorts of laws regarding the establishment of religion. And a lot of justification is used in the 14th Amendment to give Congress that authority to do that. Can you kind of flesh that out for me?
Yeah, sure. So you're exactly right. Everyone understood the First Amendment to be only a restriction on the national government, and all of the Bill of Rights for that matter. The 14th Amendment comes along. If you read through the 14th Amendment, you'll see a phrase that goes something like this: no state shall deny any person their rights. And so this was taken by the U.S. Supreme Court beginning in 1925. The U.S. Supreme Court said, well, what sort of rights? What sort of rights are protected by the 14th Amendment? Well, they must be the most important rights in the Bill of Rights. So in 1925, the Supreme Court said for the first time we'll apply freedom of speech to the state. So now the state of Idaho, just like the national government, can infringe someone's right to freedom of speech. In 1943, the Free Exercise of Religion Clause. In 1947, the Establishment Clause. And on we go until almost every provision of the Bill of Rights now is a restriction upon the states as well as the national government. Now, in some respects, this is not a bad thing. This would mean, for instance, if someone in Idaho, let's say a majority of the legislators in Idaho decided to create a state church, it would be prohibited by the Establishment Clause from doing so. However, especially because of people like people like Andrew Seidel, the Freedom from Religion Foundation, these provisions are taken in ridiculous ways. Let me give you just one example. When Ohio created a state Holocaust memorial, it included a Star of David in the state Holocaust memorial. The Freedom from Religion Foundation people said this cannot be. The First Amendment prohibits any religious imagery on public land. Fortunately, there are people out there saying, calling their bluff. And they said, no, it doesn't. The First Amendment prohibits the creation of a state church. How is having religious imagery, especially minority religious imagery, in a state monument an establishment of religion? It isn't. It's permissible. And fortunately, courts generally go along with this. So recently, just last summer, the court upheld a massive 40-foot cross on public land in Maryland. In this case, it was the American Atheist Association or something like that, American Humanist Association, who said this clearly violates the Establishment Clause. The U.S. Supreme Court, by a vote of 7-2, says no, it doesn't. We don't have to go around tearing down crosses and things of this nature because of the Establishment Clause. So generally, courts have been going in the right direction on these questions, but people like Andrew Seidel are still out there fighting tooth and nail to remove religion from the public square.
At the very end of your book, you trace some of the growing religious accommodations in the states in the decades following the ratification of the Constitution. You're tracing things like oaths for office and military service exceptions and that kind of thing. And then at the very end, you argue that this logic would apply to even sort of more modern concerns. And you point out, you say something like, I'm not saying necessarily that they would have applied them in the same way, but you're saying the logic does. And then you close the last chapter that saying something like, we just cannot pick and choose which religious convictions to protect. Otherwise, that gun gets turned back on us. And I have a deep appreciation for the principle there of protection of religious conscience and freedom of religion and so on. At the same time, part of me at the very end was sort of like, wait, but is it completely possible? Is it utterly completely possible to say any and every religious conviction has to be protected? Or are we saying basically that there are, sort of humane principles that are established by God, by the Bible, that end up being a blessing for most religions, but that there actually are going to have to be some limits somewhere?
Yeah, no, there absolutely have to be limits. Religious liberty is not a trump card that allows people to do anything they want.
Right.
The U.S. Supreme Court, the liberal justice, William Brennan, came up with a wonderful test that I think works really well. Basically, he said, look, as long as the law is general and neutral, so it's not targeting a particular religion's practice, it has to be general and neutral. The state has to have a compelling interest if it's going to keep someone from acting upon their religious conviction. So to give a real easy case, if you have a follower of the Aztec religion who wants to sacrifice a baby to the sun god, of course the state can step in and say, no, we have a compelling interest in prohibiting murder. A little bit more complicated would be a Christian Scientist who says, my religious convictions will not allow me to give my baby medical treatment.
Right.
And I would say the state can still step in and say, no, we have a compelling interest in ensuring that this baby receives medical treatment. But when it comes to something, let's take a case from your next door state of Washington, when it comes to a florist who has a religious conviction that she cannot participate in a same-sex wedding ceremony,
right.
I don't think the state comes within a light year of having a compelling interest of requiring her to do so.
Right.
Now, in the book, I'm not going to argue against laws banning discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation. I think the laws are more trouble than they're worth. But Washington has that law. Washington can keep the law. What Washington should not be allowed to do is compel a florist to participate in a same-sex wedding ceremony against her religious convictions unless it has a compelling reason to do so. And again, I think not within a light year would any rational person say that there's a compelling interest, even if you're the most pro-LGBTQ rights person on the face of the earth.
Right.
I don't think that person can give a compelling interest for compelling the 65-year-old grandmother to participate in a wedding ceremony against her religious
But we have to have her flowers. We have to have her flowers.
Yeah.
Now, this is I really loved the book, Mark, and really, I thought it was fantastic, very, very helpful. I've been telling everybody to buy it and get it, and so good work. Just really appreciate your work on this topic and your book, man.
Hey, thank you so much. And thank you for having me on your show. I'm really honored to be here.
Well, we're glad you're here too, Mark. Mark David Hall, Did America Have a Christian Founding? You can get that at Amazon. Any other place that you recommend they get it?
You know, Amazon, you can buy it at a pretty steep discount, so I would recommend Amazon.com.
Oh, okay, well, you don't mind giving away your money. Okay. If you're single, get married. If you're married, have kids. And if you have kids, go baptize them. Until next week, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. And baptize your hands. This is Cross Politics.